I was halfway through my sandwich when the banging started. Not a polite knock. Not a, hey neighbor, got a second kind of knock. No. This was the kind of banging that made you think someone was either having a medical emergency or about to try and break your damn door down. I sighed, wiped my hands on a napkin and swung the door open. And there she was, Karen. Short, wiry, mid-50s, and fueled entirely by rage and an inflated sense of authority. She was standing on my porch in a blazing red pantsuit, clipboard clutched in her claws like it was the damn Constitution. Behind her, two other HOA members, henchmen, a bald guy in a polo that was 2 sizes too tight, and an older woman who looked like she smelled nothing but lemons and disapproval. Karen shoved a piece of paper at my chest before I even said a word. You're in violation. Again. Ha! I didn't take it. Didn't even look at it. Instead, I leaned against the doorframe, crossing my arms. Good afternoon to you too, Karen. Her nostrils flared. Don't good afternoon me, mister. Your fucking eyesore of a truck is still in the driveway. Ah, here we go. My work truck, I corrected, is parked in my driveway, which, last I checked, is my property. Karen scoffed, stepping forward. Too close. Not in an HOA, buddy. And according to community guidelines, your shit-stained plumbing van is in direct violation of our neighborhood aesthetics. It's an embarrassment. The bald guy grunted in agreement. It brings down property values. I arched a brow. Brings them down? Funny. I just bought this place at market price. Karen's eyes narrowed into slits. She hated that. I was new, untouched by years of her bullying, but she was used to people bowing, nodding, and saying, Yes, Mrs. Kessler. Too bad for her, I wasn't built like that. You're getting fined, she snapped, shoving the paper at me again. I took it this time, looked at the $250 violation fee. I let out a low whistle. You know, for $250, I could buy enough beer to actually give a shit. Karen's face went red as a fire hydrant. You think this is a joke? She hissed. This isn't some trailer park, you blue-collar piece of... My smile dropped. The air shifted. The other HOA members sensed it immediately. Karen kept running her mouth, but Bald Guy stepped back. Lemon Lady glanced between us, clearly rethinking her life choices. I took a step forward, and Karen stumbled back. You got something to say about blue-collar workers, Karen? My voice was calm, dangerous. She swallowed. A bead of sweat formed at her hairline, but pride was a hell of a drug. You don't belong here. Her voice wavered, just slightly. Your trashy business has no place in this community. I exhaled through my nose, keeping my cool. I own this house, Karen, same as you, same as Baldy and Lemonface over there. I let my gaze flicker to them, and they both found the sidewalk fascinating. Karen lifted her chin. You're getting fined, and if that truck isn't moved, we'll escalate this. We'll take legal action. You think you're some badass because you fixed toilets? Well, honey, she sneered, we'll flush you right out of this neighborhood. Oh, that was cute. I grinned, slow and lazy. I'm looking forward to it. She blinked, caught off guard by my complete lack of fear. And then I did something that sent her over the edge. I crumpled the violation notice into a ball and tossed it behind me, right into my house. Karen lost her fucking mind. That is a legal document. Oh, my bad, I said, rubbing my chin. Did you want it back? Here, let me fix it for you. I turned around, picked up the crumpled ball, and spiked it like a football into my trash can. The lid clanged shut. The silence was beautiful. The HOA trio looked horrified. Karen's hands shook with rage. You're going to regret that. I already do, I said, walking back to my door. You wasted my lunch break. And with that I shut the door in her face. But I wasn't dumb. I knew this wasn't over, and neither did she. The next morning, another. By the end of the week, my fine stacked up to over $1,000. Karen was making good on her threats. But I wasn't worried, because what Karen didn't know was that karma is a bitch, and hers was coming with a fucking tsunami. Got it. We're keeping this hot, ruthless, and escalating. Karen's about to turn up the heat, but she doesn't know she's stepping straight into the fire. I'll go full script writing mode. High tension, sharp dialogue, brutal back and forth. This isn't just an HOA dispute. This is war. I let it ring. A few seconds later, again, then my email pinged. HOA notice, final warning. I opened it, barely reading, before I saw the key words, vehicle impoundment pending. HOA board decision approved. My jaw tightened. That bitch. Karen wasn't just handing out petty fines anymore. She was escalating. She was trying to take my goddamn truck. Now, here's the thing. That truck? That's my livelihood. No truck, no plumbing jobs, no emergency calls, no paycheck. Karen knew this, and that's exactly why she was gunning for it. Time to visit the queen bitch herself. I marched out, shirt still unbuttoned, coffee in hand, walking straight across the neighborhood. People saw me coming. They peeked through curtains. They pretended to water their grass. Some just froze, gripping their coffee mugs like they were watching a live-action crime drama. I didn't stop until I was right at Karen's front door. Bang! Bang! The same aggressive-ass knock she'd done to me. One beat. Two. Then the door ripped open. Karen stood there, robe cinched tight, half a makey done like she had somewhere important to be, which I knew she didn't because her only job was ruining people's lives. Her lips curled. I was expecting you. I took a long sip of my coffee, staring her down over the rim. You have 5 seconds to cancel whatever bullshit impoundment scam you just pulled, I said, voice calm, cold, razor sharp. Karen smirked. Or what? My smile was slow, deliberate. Or I parked that truck right on your fucking lawn. Her eyes flashed. You wouldn't dare, she snapped. I stepped closer. One call, I said. A single call to any of the commercial contractors I work with, and I'll have a full-blown porta-potty and septic servicing truck parked out here so fast you'll smell shit every morning with your tea. Karen's nostrils flared. You are a menace, she hissed. And you are a walking lawsuit. Her eyes twitched. Ah, got her. She wasn't stupid. She knew she was flirting with legal trouble. HOAs were powerful, but they weren't invincible. Karen's face smoothed out, like she was flipping through some villainous mental playbook. Then she sighed dramatically. Listen, she said, voice mockingly sweet. It's not personal. You just don't fit here. I laughed, shaking my head. Yeah? That's funny because I own my home, same as you. I pay my dues, same as you. The only difference is I work for a living. Her jaw clenched. Oh, that hit. Karen was HOA royalty, but her husband had been the real cash cow, and he left her last year for a woman 20 years younger. The whole damn neighborhood knew it. Watch yourself, she said, eyes dark, voice low. You have no idea what you're up against. I took a slow, final sip of my coffee. Oh, sweetheart, I said, grinning. Neither do you. And with that, I turned and walked away. The next 2 weeks, a fucking nightmare. Karen went scorched earth. Day 1, I got another fine, $500. Obstructive vehicle presence. Day 3, code enforcement showed up, claiming someone anonymously reported me for running an unlicensed business from home. They left empty-handed because I was 100% legal. Day 5, an anonymous complaint about my grass being 1.5 inches too high. Seriously, I mowed the entire damn lawn at 3 a.m. with my headlights on. Day 7, my mailbox was stuffed with garbage. I checked my security cam footage. It was Karen, caught red-handed, sneaking up at 1:27 a.m., dumping a full-ass trash bag into my box. I laughed so hard I almost choked on my beer. Day 10. She called the city on me again. This time, noise complaint. You know what the noise was? My AC unit running. The inspector literally apologized when he knocked on my door. "She's nuts," he muttered. "Oh, I know." Day 12. My truck tires were slashed. Karen was careful. Didn't get caught, but I knew it was her, and so did half the neighborhood, because that's when the whispers started. By now, I had a plan. Karen thought she was winning. What she didn't know, I'd been stacking evidence. Security cam footage of her mailbox stunt. City inspectors literally texting me that she was wasting their time. Documented proof of all the fake reports. But I wasn't just collecting receipts. I was waiting, 'cause bullies, they always overplay their hand. And sure enough, day 15, the storm arrives. It was midnight when I heard the screaming, not the usual HOA bitch fest. This? Panic. Pure, unfiltered panic. I threw on a shirt, stepped onto my porch, and there she was. Karen. Soaked, hair a mess, barefoot, screaming into her phone, and behind her, her entire fucking basement was flooding. The water was rushing out of her garage like a goddamn tsunami. I grinned. This was karma. And here's the best part. I'm the only 24-hour plumber in town. Got it. We're keeping this nuclear level heated. Karen is drowning, literally, and now she has to face the one person she tried to destroy. No mercy, no filters, no cold spots. Let's drag this out. Let her feel every ounce of humiliation before we snap the trap. Karen was standing in a flood, barefoot, soaked, makeup running like a bad horror movie. She was screaming into her phone, but I knew she wasn't getting through. Because, see, this was a perfect storm. It was past midnight. The city's emergency plumbing service, closed. Every major plumber, booked. And me, the only 24-hour plumber within 20 miles. I leaned against my truck, arms crossed, watching. Just watching. Fuck. Why is no one picking up? Karen shrieked. Her garage looked like a sinking ship. Water gushing down the driveway, swallowing her pristine white tile flooring, creeping toward her custom basement bar and $3,000 couch, and then she saw me. Our eyes met, and in that moment, she knew. She knew I was her only hope. Karen froze. Her death grip on her phone trembled. Her pride physically fought against her panic. She swallowed, face twisting into something ugly. And then she took a breath, stepped forward, and in the most forced, tight-lipped tone I had ever heard, she spat out, "I need a plumber." Silence. The entire neighborhood was watching. Porch lights had flicked on. Curtains had shifted. This was a show. And I wasn't about to cut it short. I took my time, sipped my beer, savored it. Then I said, "Yeah? What happened?" Karen twitched, her jaw clenched so hard I thought her veneers might crack. "A pipe burst," she gritted out. "In the basement." "No shit," I mused. "Sounds serious." The veins in her forehead bulged. "Yes," she hissed. "It is." Another pause. She hated this. Every fiber of her being was rejecting the fact that she was begging me. So I let her stew for one more beat, then I grinned. "Yeah, sorry, I'm off the clock." Karen's soul left her body. She stumbled forward. "What?" I shrugged. "Yeah, I had a long day, you know. Some crazy lady's been calling the city on me, filing fake complaints. Real exhausting." She sputtered. You can't be serious." "This is an emergency." I nodded. "Yeah." And so was my work truck getting towed, and my mailbox full of garbage, and my fucking tires getting slashed. "But You didn't seem too worried about those emergencies." Karen's face drained of color. I tilted my head, pretending to think. "Maybe try one of those other plumbers," I suggested. "I hear the city has a few." "Oh, wait. They're closed." "Damn." A sound burst out of her, some kind of frustrated screech-growl hybrid. Her eyes darted toward the water, then back to me. Then she did something unthinkable. She lowered her head. I'll pay you." I blinked. What was that? Her voice shook. "I'll pay you." Another pause. Then, slowly, I stepped forward, real close. Close enough that I could smell the Chanel No. 5 drowning in swamp water. Then I whispered real quiet. "Not good enough." Karen froze. Her breath hitched. She stared at me like I was a demon in a fucking horror movie. What do you want?" she whispered. I smiled. "Your signature," she blinked. I pulled out a clipboard, prepped weeks in advance. The HOA legal complaint package. It had everything. Formal revocation of every single bullshit fine she had filed. A full written admission that she had targeted me unjustly. A statement agreeing to a community vote on HOA reform. And my personal favorite, a clause that removed her as HOA president. Karen stared at it, then back at me, then at the rising flood, then back at me. "You?" Her voice cracked. "You planned this." I smiled. "No, Karen, you planned this. I just let you dig your own fucking grave." She didn't move, didn't breathe. Then a loud crack echoed from inside her house, a table flipping, a thud. Karen's eyes went wild. That was her bar collapsing. The water had reached it. Her hand shot out. "Give me the damn pen." Karen signed like a fucking hostage. Sloppy, rushed, wet ink smearing. The second her name hit the final line, I tucked the clipboard under my arm. Then I grabbed my tool bag, stepped right over the contract and went to work. 45 minutes. That's all it took. The pipe was fixed. The water stopped. And Karen, she looked wrecked. Hair frizzed, clothes soaked, masquerade running like a cheap horror villain. She was done, and so was her fucking rain. I wiped my hands on a rag. Then, before walking out, I turned and said, real casual, "Oh, by the way, since I'm a licensed emergency plumber, this counts as a business visit." Karen blinked. I gestured to her driveway, where my truck was parked. Big, bold, logo on full display. Karen's eye twitched. I grinned. "See you around, Karen." Then I walked out. To a standing ovation. "You got it. We're going full-blown execution mode now." Karen lost the battle, but now she's about to lose the war. No mercy, no cold spots, just full, brutal resolution. She's about to face the aftermath, and trust me, it's gonna hurt. The next morning, the HOA board meeting was packed. Usually these things were a ghost town. Just Karen and her two lackeys scribbling down new ways to suck the joy out of people's lives. But today, the entire neighborhood showed up. Lawn chairs, coffee mugs, even old Mr. Davis, who hadn't left his house in 5 years, was sitting front row like it was a damn pay-per-view event. And at the center of it all, Karen. Her usual smugness, gone. Her power stance, non-existent. She sat at the front like a defendant on trial, surrounded by the same people she'd spent years screwing over. I strolled in, slow, casual, letting the tension sink into her bones. The HOA's lawyer stood up, cleared his throat, and read the resignation contract out loud. Karen flinched at every word. Amidst a repeated misuse of HOA powers, financial penalties imposed without proper board approval, removal as HOA president, effective immediately. By the time he got to the final line, Karen looked physically ill. Then The lawyer looked at her and said, "Do you dispute this?" Silence. Everyone leaned in. Karen's fingers twitched in her lap. For a split second I saw it. That tiny ember of defiance, that last little bit of fight. She opened her mouth, then she saw me, sitting back, smirking, the clipboard tucked under my arm, full of every single HOA violation she'd ever committed herself. Security footage, paper trails, undeniable proof. Karen's throat bobbed. She closed her mouth and whispered, "No." The neighborhood exhaled, and just like that, it was over. Karen Kessler was done. She stormed out of the meeting like a defeated dictator, humiliation dripping off her like the floodwater from last night. The second the door slammed behind her, the neighborhood erupted. People clapped, cheered. Somebody popped a beer, even bald guy. The dumbass who'd backed Karen every step of the way came up to me, clapped me on the shoulder, and muttered, "Should have done this years ago." I just grinned. Karen's little empire was crumbling, and it got worse. Because guess what happens when you spend years running an HOA like your own personal dictatorship? People start talking. And now that Karen was powerless, oh, people talked. Turns out, Karen had been misusing HOA funds for years. That fancy front yard upgrade she did last summer, paid for with community money. The private security cameras she installed, same deal. And that personal legal team she kept threatening people with, turns out the HOA never actually hired them. She was bluffing the entire damn time. It didn't take long before people demanded a full audit. And when that audit came back, Karen packed her bags. 2 months later, a for sale sign went up in Karen's yard. Not voluntarily. See, turns out when you steal thousands from your own community, you get hit with fines, lawsuits, criminal charges. Karen tried to fight it, tried to act innocent, but the paper trail was too big. The court seized her house. Karen was forced to sell. And the best part? She didn't even get to pick the buyer, because the second that house went on the market, I made a phone call to a buddy of mine, a young guy, just married, and you know what he does for a living? A tow truck driver. And guess what he parks in his driveway every night? A big ass truck. Karen's worst nightmare. I saw her one last time, the day she left. She was standing on the curb, watching in horror as my friend signed the final papers. Her face was pale, her hands trembling as the tow truck rumbled into her old driveway. A giant diesel engine roaring in the spot she used to call an eyesore. I leaned against my truck, watching. When her eyes met mine, I just smiled and tipped my hat. Goodbye, Karen. The neighborhood changed, for the better. The HOA reformed. No more bullshit fines. No more selective enforcement. No more Karen-style dictatorship. People started actually enjoying living there again. And me, I stayed, because this was my home. And no HOA Karen was ever going to change that. That's it. That's the nail in the coffin. Karen didn't just lose power. She lost everything. Her house, her reputation, her kingdom. And the final cherry on top, she got replaced by exactly what she hated. Justice? Fucking served. And I stayed winning. Hope that delivered the destruction you wanted. Looks like we already obliterated Karen, but let's make sure she stays buried. We're wrapping up loose ends, twisting the knife, and ensuring she never crawled back. No cold spots, no mercy, just final execution. I thought I'd seen the last of her. Really, I did. Karen had been officially erased from the... She lost her house, her power, and any ounce of control she had left. But a snake never slithers away quietly. It happened 2 weeks after she sold the house. I was coming back from a job, mud still on my boots, when I saw her. sitting in her car, parked across the street, watching my truck, my house, everything she tried to take from me. I stepped out of my truck, slow, deliberate, locking eyes with her. She didn't move, didn't start the car, she just stared. And for the first time since I met her, she looked small. Not the power-tripping dictator I first encountered, not the raging tyrant that threw fines around like confetti, just a bitter, broken woman sitting in a car that wasn't even hers, because yeah, she lost that too. I walked up to her window, leaned down and tapped the glass. She flinched. Then she rolled it down, a slow breath, and in a voice I had never heard from her before, she whispered, "You ruined my life." I blinked. Then I laughed. A deep, gut-wrenching laugh that came from every ounce of bullshit she had put me through. Karen's face twisted. "You think this is funny?" she snapped, voice breaking. "I lost everything." I wiped a fake tear. "You don't say!" Her hand shook on the steering wheel. "I'm homeless, you son of a bit." "I have nowhere to go." I tilted my head. "Oh, that sucks," I said. "Almost as bad as losing your entire plumbing business because some power-tripping asshole tried to have your work truck impounded." Karen's lips pressed together. I smiled. "You remember that?" I asked. "Or does karma work too fast for you to keep up?" She turned away. I let the silence drag. Then, leaning in closer, I whispered, "You didn't lose your life, Karen. You threw it away." Her breath hitched. "You had a choice," I continued, low and sharp. "You could have left me the hell alone. You could have minded your business. You could have treated people like human beings instead of your personal peasants." I took a step back. "But you couldn't help yourself." Karen stared at the dashboard, silent, shaking. Then she whispered, "I just wanted control." I nodded. "I know." Then I tapped the window one last time. "Now you have nothing." And with that, I turned, walked away, left her exactly where she belonged, on the outside. When Karen's car finally disappeared, the neighborhood exhaled. It was like a damn festival. No more random HOA fines, no more petty complaints, no more tyranny. People smiled again, neighbors talked to each other. For the first time in years, the community felt like an actual home. And me, I enjoyed every second of it. That first weekend, my new tow truck neighbor fired up his massive grill and we threw a block party right in the middle of the street. Loud music, cold beer, big trucks parked right out in the open. We even held a ceremonial burning of old HOA fines. People roared as Karen's ridiculous grass-length violation notices turned ash. Someone joked about sending her the ashes in the mail. I laughed, but I also may have actually done it, because hey, poetic justice. A few months passed. Karen, gone. Rumor was she moved to an apartment in the city. No house, no HOA, no power. As for me, business boomed. Neighbors started calling me for jobs, because turns out they actually liked having an honest, hard-working guy around. The HOA still exists, but now it's run by sane people. No random fines, no bullshit. And every now and then, when a new neighbor moves in, they ask, "Hey, what happened to the last HOA president?" And the whole block, we just smile. Because some legends, they don't need words, just a cautionary tale. Karen didn't just lose the fight, she lost everything. Her power, her home, her identity, and the neighborhood thrived. Justice fucking served.